One thing that I commonly see dealing with people going through psychiatric medication withdrawal is this concept of isolation. And I've been speaking about this a lot lately this past week because it's so common and it's so prevalent, and it's also so difficult to deal with for people. And basically how I see this is it takes on two different fundamental types. One is a physical isolation and the other is a mental type of isolation. Both of these are really, really extremely difficult. For the mental isolation part, I basically see this presenting as the feeling that you have when you feel like you're locked up inside your head and you feel like it's almost impossible to relate to those around you and to relate to life around you. So you go through your days kind of feeling like it's just you with all these terrible symptoms, these horrible thoughts, and you may be reluctant to talk to people about them. You may be feeling like you're just kind of keeping it all inside, and you're keeping it all inside your head because the intensity of the symptoms and the thoughts that they produce are so hard and they're so horrific sometimes. You don't even know how to get that out. You don't even know how to express that to somebody. And you're afraid that if you do, it's going to come off wrong. You're going to scare the person that you're talking to, and you don't want to scare those you love or your family members. And so you just kind of keep it bottled up inside. That can be a very isolating experience where you feel like you just can't relate to anybody. I think another way this takes form is when you feel like you're trying to, quote unquote, fake it till you make it. And I hate that saying. I really don't like it. But there is something to be said about trying to still go about your day as if you're all right. There is something to be said about trying to put yourself out there and trying to still act as if you're okay, if that makes sense. Just because sometimes the alternative is too depressing, laying around and sitting around. So you try to go about your day as if you can do it and as if you're okay. And so you may actually go and put yourself out there sometimes, or you may meet a friend for lunch, or you may have some obligation to meet, or you may still have to work and you still have to go show up for coworkers and for a boss, or whatever it is that you do. And you can go do that stuff sometimes and still feel absolutely awful and terrible inside, and like it is taking every ounce of power and courage that you have to try to get through the day. Yet you're still somehow able to go out there and pull it off, and it's excruciatingly tough. But on the outside, somebody looking at you can see what you're doing and see your efforts and still say, "Oh my God, look at Dan, or look at such and such. They're actually showing up and they seem to be doing all right. They're speaking clearly. They're communicating. They're getting their work done." But they have no idea how much effort that's taking for you to do. They have no clue that you're basically hanging on by a thread going through your day, just trying to keep it together, and how incredibly, incredibly difficult that is. So that's another isolating experience because it's almost impossible to relate this to people. And if you do by chance try to tell somebody who's close to you what you're dealing with and what the medication has done to you, you're almost met with this kind of disbelief that a medication could really do that much to you. So people kind of look at you like it's all in your head, or you're exaggerating your symptoms, or you're just not really communicating to them the truth about what's going on. I felt like when I would try to communicate what was going on with the medication symptoms, people would just kind of be like, that's probably just in your head. You weren't on psych meds after all. You are a psych med patient. So therefore, there's no way that medication could have done this much damage to you. So you just kind of give up. I mean, if you're like me, I just kind of would throw up my hands and be like, you know what? I think I'm done trying to explain myself or talk to people about this because fuck it. Nobody's really getting it anyway. So it becomes really, really tough. That's a very, very lonely experience when you feel like it's just you and then nobody else around you understands what's going on. And you're really, really trying hard to keep it together. and you're dealing with a medication injury. I mean, this is a legitimate brain injury, nervous system injury. It's just not classified as such by medical science. So it's just kind of right now, it's your word against everybody else's as far as how you're feeling and how this medication has severely impacted your ability to live your life normally. And aside from the mental isolation is the physical isolation that can really come about as a result of medication damage. And I hate seeing this happen to people, but it does happen, where family members, friends, loved ones, children, even parents sometimes they don't know how to handle our suffering. And hopefully there's nothing nefarious behind their intention to leave. I know sometimes, family dynamics are complicated. And so I understand that a lot of times, that all plays into, the whole dynamic with people leaving your life. And I know there's a lot of trauma that happens in families too, believe me. So I know that all factors in, and I want to honor that and recognize that. And at other times, it's just the fact of the matter that people get burned out. They don't know how to handle our suffering, and they're scared by it. They don't know what to say or do anymore, and so they distance themselves. They may not leave your life completely, but they definitely pull back because they feel like they have to instill some boundaries for themselves because they're freaked out, they're scared, and they don't know how to handle it. That's hard. That's really, really tough when you feel like you need people around constantly for validation and support, yet people can leave. They can absolutely leave your life at a time when you need them most. And it's really hard. It's really sad to see that happen, but it does happen. And so it's just more fallout from these medications. It's just more of the damage that not just happens to us. It's like a bomb that drops, and it just, it like expands out through your life to other people. It affects everybody whose lives it touches, parents, friends, children. It's absolutely devastating to see what these drugs do to people. And, that's why I think it's so important that we have these channels on social media, that we can talk about this and we can come together and commiserate and understand one another, because only somebody who's been through psychiatric medication damage truly understands what it feels like. There's no other way that you can communicate what it actually feels like on the inside. And I know so many of you that I've talked to, sometimes we can come together and you're explaining what's going on in your life and how you feel and, what you're trying to do just to get through the day. And you're putting on a brave face, and you're incredibly brave and incredibly courageous to go through this. And yet I know behind those words, behind those actions, I know what that feels like on the inside. Like I understand what it feels like when you're just trying to get through your day and not completely fall apart on the inside because the symptoms, the mental, emotional fragility that you have going through this, it's so hard. It's such a tenuous thread most days that you're really just holding on with some hope that you're going to get through it. I get that. I understand what that's like, and I've been through it. And so again, I think it's important that we talk about it, and I think it's important that we have these channels, these open lines of communication where we understand one another, and hopefully in time we can affect some change in the world, affect some change in the pharmaceutical industry and the way that medicine is practiced with psychiatric drugs, because what we've been doing obviously is not working. If you want to know how I feel about psychiatry, you can check out my last video that I just made about it. And I love you guys, man. I love you guys. Anybody going through this, I hold you in my heart, and I'm here to support you in any way that I can. If you are looking for coaching, you can visit the description box below this video. I have my links posted. Alternatively, you can go to my website, philosophicalfishing.com. And I love you guys. If you have any questions or any suggestions for content, just drop me a comment. Let me know. Email me. I love you guys. See you in the next video.